Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to our Cases webinar. My name is Rosie, I am a product manager here at Tynes, and today we are going to take a deep dive into cases. By the end of this webinar, you will be able to not only understand the core functionality of cases itself, but even more importantly, how cases works with other core Tynes features like stories, records, and dashboards. Cases are a great place for your team to collaborate and solve problems, but case management solutions generally can quickly create a lot of manual work for your team. At Tynes, this was top of mind when we were building out our case management solution. We build cases to work really well with our robust automation capabilities so that by the time your team looks at a case, all of that manual enrichment, that task switching, that correlation is done, and your team can see the information they need to begin making decisions and take action. And when it's time to take action, Tynes will be there to help execute those actions as quickly as possible too. We're with you every step of the way. So enough of me describing something without showing it to you. Let's dig in here. On our top nav, you'll see we have stories, cases, dashboards, and records. These all work really well together. So if we start with stories, stories are going to be where you receive your alerts. You're able to see for every alert, I'm going to take these actions. But what happens when I want to see what was the last alert I just received? Or is there any correlation between those alerts? It's not a great place to view that data. So that's where records come in. I'm capturing a record every time I receive an alert. And records are a way to store structured data in Tynes. So here are my records, and you can see every time I receive an alert in that workflow, it creates a new row here with my record data. I can visualize it up top nicely too. What happens though when I see record data that I want to investigate further with my team, when I want to have a log of what actions I take on it? That's where cases come in. And in cases, you can pull that record data in, collaborate with your team, take action, export that case as an audit log later on. But what happens when I want to look at more than just a case individually? I want to see my case metrics. I want to report out on how my team is handling our cases. That's where dashboards come in, where you're able to report on all of that, cases and records reporting data at once. So now that you're able to see stories, cases, dashboards, and records, they all work together really well so that your team can ultimately work as efficiently and effectively as possible. That's our goal. Let's look at this cases reporting dashboard. You can build as many dashboards as you'd like. If you want your team to be able to see a lot of this data at once, you can build ones for different members of your team too. And they're all different widgets that you can add and move around and reshape in size that you add here on the top right. So record charts, you can see if we looked back at those records, I could copy this to a dashboard if I want. You can also build that record chart itself manually here, and you're able to dig more into that record data at a higher level. If we look at case views, there's a couple examples here as well. So we have case statuses, I have my key case metrics, I can even see the cases listed here. And you're able to dig into this data as well if I want to go to that list or further configure it or make changes. And then finally, that last option was a case note. This is a dashboard note here, works in Markdown, and here's just a simple example of that too. These look really nice in Tynes, but oftentimes you need to report outside of Tynes, so you can export this entire dashboard if you'd like as an image, as well as each individual item too. So if I want to export this, it'll load it here. I can resize it as needed, maybe change the filter, the background, the color. You could do dark mode if you want. And then once it fits your specifications, you can go ahead and download that. Same exact process for exporting the entire dashboard as an image. And whether you're looking at your dashboards, you're working in your stories, you're looking at those record alerts, you're going to be able to see notifications here when a new case is created. We have notifications for a variety of items. You can change those settings here for notifications to be exactly what you'd like to see within the Tynes UI. And then also you can hook up for notifications outside of Times in Slack and Teams and another chat option that your team works in too to get notified. So you'll see that we got a notification that a new case was created. Let's go ahead and check that case out here. This was the one I actually clicked into from our cases home. And when we look at this case, there's going to be a couple things that I just automatically do. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this case to myself. You'll see that I can also transfer this to a couple different groups. So if you want to create cases that are specifically only supposed to be handled by a certain group of people, or if you want to transfer cases and escalate them to different groups of users within your team, you can define groups and then have them created immediately and automatically in a certain group. It's easy to transfer them throughout. You can also assign multiple people. I'm going to assign this test user that I have called Timmy Tino. And you'll see that as I'm taking these actions, our activity log here automatically updates with what I'm doing. So that way I can focus on taking action, solving the case, and not on remembering everything I did for an audit log later on. Times will take care of that for you. When this user is assigned, they're going to go ahead and get a notification similar to the one that I got for that case. They can begin to start typing back. As they're typing, I'll be able to see that here. And then when I get their message, I'll get a notification. I can begin to react to this too, and we can start collaborating in our case comments as well. I'm going to move this to our in progress status. You'll notice that these are our standard case statuses. You can define custom statuses as well if you'd like to, so anything to fit your process. And then this is a high priority. That determines our SLA. You can set different SLAs based on the severity of the case. Looking at the actual data of the case, we can see that this is an alert for a user who had a successful login from an unusual location. Based on just this quick summary, I'm able to glean a lot of information. I'm going to go ahead and add a tag that this is a user account. Tags are really flexible in Times, and you can get them to do a lot of different automations. So I added a tag that this was a user account type case. That's relevant and helpful for the rest of my team to know, and for my records reporting and cases reporting. But you'll also notice that I set this up to have user account based actions pop up for user account based tagged cases. So now I have the action to lock user account here. If you want this to automatically pop up when that case is initially created, like we saw in our workflow here, you can totally do that as well. This is just one way to show how you can have phased remediative action options as well. Great. Additionally, if we want to dig into the details more, those records are linked to our case. We can see not only from the summary that there were exactly 2 alerts that we received so far for that user, and I can start looking into this case more with the person I've assigned to the case. But if we head back out to our cases home, this looks quite different from the dashboards. So we have a lot of good information in our dashboards. It's a bit at a higher level, more reporting based. Your cases home is going to be more for filtering and searching and sorting that data as you see it and as it comes in. So I can filter by tag, assignee status, a variety of other options. I can also sort my filtered results by activity or when they were opened or last created. And then I can save them as case views. So if I want to see cases assigned to me, you'll see that it's added those tags there, high priority cases, and you can look at the different views for your teams too. Additionally, you can take bulk actions here. So if you get a lot of cases in bulk that come in and you need to start bulk actioning them, you can go ahead and automatically add a comment or tags or assignees at once. And then you can also go ahead and export any of these filtered lists as a CSV for any sort of processing or reporting needed, as well as within that individual case, you can export that as a PDF too. I can create a case from scratch here with this new button. I can quite literally start from scratch or use one of our templates. So there's different ones that you can define and then create your own too. But you'll notice that this case was actually created from that workflow that we looked at the beginning. And we're mainly focused in this webinar on cases, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on the automation capabilities of Tines. That would be a very long webinar, but there's quite a bit of cases related automation too that I think it's important to call out here. So in this very simple alert workflow, we receive an alert, we capture that record of it every time so that we can later on correlate and search against those. And then we start to do a simple bit of correlation. So I'm searching for any existing open cases related to that user. I'm going to group my alerts by user. That's an example. You don't have to do that. You can specify it to however you'd like your process to run. So I'm searching for open cases related to the user. If they already exist, if there are cases for that user, I'm going to go ahead and add the record to the case and update it. If they don't, I'm only going to create a case if the alert is critical or high severity. So that way, there might be records that come in that don't have cases created for them until we receive an alert that meets the criteria we've defined. You can very flexibly in your workflows define a lot of automation rules or correlation here so that you're only seeing cases that your team needs to see. We're also using our AI action here. I point this out because it's a really great use case for the AI action. We have no idea what alerts we're going to receive. They come in real time. And so the context of our case might change based on a new alert we receive for that user. So our AI action is going to generate an updated summary based on that alert context in real time so that our team is seeing the most important, up-to-date, and newly summarized information. If we go check out our records, I'm going to send a couple more alerts in here to this story, and then we will see what those records look like. So checking out our records now, you can see here that you can filter by the last 31 days, by different times. You can also filter by any of the columns here, and then you're going to be able to save filtered views similar to the way you could save case views. So here are my high severity alerts. I'm going to go back to alerts and filter for just records received today. And then I accidentally sent the same alerts back in that I already had. So I'm actually going to delete some records here. See, we have the same two successful login from an unusual one. So I'm just going to delete these two so that I don't confuse us for the rest of the demo. But you'll see that we have 6 unique alerts that we received today. 4 of them are related to a case. So we got 2 more for the same user, Angela, that we looked at that case at previously. And then 2 are actually ones that we haven't seen. So let's look at these. We have 2 records for Michael. And you can see that they were both medium severity, so that's why we didn't create a case. And this is a really good example of why it's nice to have records for every alert, but maybe not cases for everyone. Michael has done something we all have. He forgot his password. So there's multiple failed login attempts and then a password change. I don't need my team to be looking at this when there's more critical alerts at the moment, but if there were to be another alert that came in that all of a sudden changed the context of this, maybe similar to Angela's, where it started out the same way, multiple failed login attempts, and then a successful login from an unusual location, then that's something that changes the context that my team wants to look at. And we'll have all the data saved in our records to add to the case. But at the moment, this can exist as a record. We can use it for further correlation, and we don't need to create a case for it and auto-close it. You can do that, but you can keep it as a record too. The 2 alerts that I just sent in were for unauthorized access to sensitive data and then also unusual activity on an account. So you can see they were already added to that case that we were looking at before. And we've already covered that you can create a case already from the home page here, as well as from a workflow. But the one other way to create a case would be from records themselves. So because these are 2 login alerts, and then these are 2 account activity alerts, maybe I want my team to escalate these ones a bit more. Maybe I want another case to track them. I can go ahead and select these alerts and add it to an existing case or create a new case. So I'm going to create a new case here. I'm going to start with my base case template. This just has the closure conditions and other items that I want in here. And then I'm going to name this, second alert for Angela, user account activity. And I'll just delete the case description for now. We'll make it critical too. So we go ahead and create this case. It has those records attached to it that I already had. And then I'm already going to run this pre-filled in action. So another option for, we looked at actions being added by tags in our old case. Now we also have an action already part of the case when it was first created. So really flexible. I'm just going to use AI to auto format my case description for me based on the record data. And we'll see our case summary here that the alert has been triggered for a suspicious user account activity related to the user Angela. I can go ahead and add another member of my team to look at this. And I can say, please look at this first. And we can work in parallel. I'll go ahead and link the cases too. And we'll see that now they're both linked. If I head back to my original case we looked at for Angela, you'll notice that our description updated based on that AI action. The context of our alerts changed, so did the case summary here. So we can see all of the data here summarized. We can also see, once again, a nice audit log of all the records added that I linked the case to, and we can see that linked case. And we can continue to work on this, seeing all the records here too. As I start taking action, you saw in the last case, we took an action and it ran in the background. If you wanted to take another action where you might have to input information, you can link it to our times pages. And here I'm going to confirm that I want to lock Angela's account. So we'll lock this user account, get confirmation here in our page, as well as in our comment section here. And maybe I want to go ahead and check off that recommended action. You'll see when I do that, I can keep checking off these different actions, and that's going to update in my case for me too. And finally, I can keep working on this case, but before I can actually close it to done or canceled, I need to fill out my case requirements. Case requirements are fully customized by you to fit your process. So I just have some sample ones here that a user must be assigned and the case metadata must be completed. In my case metadata, once again, this is custom defined by you. I'm using this as a way to track metadata about the case that's not necessarily relevant to the context of the case. Every case, regardless of if it's a user account case or a user activity case or something else, will always have an impact, resolution, and closure comments. So that's what I'm using here. You can use it very flexibly, so however you'd like. And then you can begin to fill this out. Once this is filled out, our full case requirements will be completed, and then we'll be able to actually close the case. So there's quite a lot more that we can keep doing. Once again, I can export this as a PDF once it's needed, if it's needed for audit reasons or any sort of traceability. And we can continue working and triaging all of our cases and times. All of those actions that we saw that were happening here will go to a case webhook. So if you ever want to take additional actions or write additional automations based on another case webhook, like every time my case closes, I want to send this update or make these changes or check for this thing, you can do that too, which once again just lets you build a really custom case management solution for your team, for your processes, which we know are different. As a quick recap, we've covered a lot, but we have dashboards to overall highlight and report at a high level on your cases and your records data. We have records to be able to capture every single alert or every single piece of structured data that you care about that comes through your workflows. And then we have cases to collaborate with your team. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd really recommend checking out our cases and records story library section here. You can sort by feature and see different cases and records, pre-built stories for you to check out. If you want to even test out something similar to what we were looking at in this webinar today, I've built this sample story here to explore times cases with provided sample data. As you can see, it looks really similar to what we just looked at, and then it has a bunch of the sample data we looked at as well. So you can run it through and explore and test out more with cases and records. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to open it up to our Q&A now, and I really appreciate you all joining. Thanks. Awesome. Let's get started with the Q&A portion. I've been gathering and organizing your questions as they've come in as you were watching the part that I pre-recorded just before. So I'll start with the ones that have already come in, and then feel free to send any more additionally as I go and answer those. So the first question that came in is, you have mean time to resolve. Do you have mean time to respond, like status change? So that came in a bit earlier on in our webinar when we were looking at the dashboard, and you could see mean time to resolve. We do support other metrics, such as mean time to assign is our other out-of-the-box supported one, and that would be based on once a user is assigned. Next question is, can you export a series of cases or various context data, say for the last month, for analysis in something like Power BI? Yep, we do understand. I feel like you can never get to the end of what everyone would possibly want for dashboarding. So we do have dashboarding as you see it in Times, but we understand you'll probably also want to use it in Power BI or something too. If you want to do that, I'd recommend exporting from this list. So you can add your filters here and then go ahead and export it as a CSV, and then you can put that data in Power BI for any additional analyses you'd like. Next question, can I merge ServiceNow ticket in existing Times case? Yes, you can do that. The way that we've seen it done a couple different ways. So if you had an existing ServiceNow ticket and you then wanted to bring it to a Times case and create a new one, you could do that. We also have customers that do it the opposite way, where their team is working in Times cases, but maybe the case is relevant to other existing teams that work outside of Times and ServiceNow. So that's also an option too, if you want to take a case from Times and then convert it to ServiceNow. So it works both ways. Next question, from a cyber or security operations standpoint, do you imagine incident responders working out of Times cases? Yes, that is currently what some of our customers are doing right now who use Times cases. They use it for that very use case. So very top of mind question. All right, and then would you recommend creating a record first before creating a case, or create a case which would create a record? I would recommend, just with the way records are captured, records are going to be captured on the storyboard, which oftentimes, as you saw here, is how we create cases. So I think just with the way, if you're building with records and cases, you're most likely going to capture a record first, because you'll capture records based on a lot of data that comes in, and then use some logic to determine when you want to create a case. So I would recommend creating a record first before creating a case. But if you had a particular use case where you wanted to create a case first, you could do that too. And then with the webhook, it would create a record. So I guess you could do both, but I think more commonly it's going to be the former, creating the record first. And then next question, can you create custom metrics to display at the dashboard level? Oh, that relates back to that first question we got. Yes, you can. So within the dashboards, you can choose within your different types of charts that you're creating how you want to display it. So if you want to display it as a number, like a metric, you can do that. Cool. That looks like all of the questions that we've gotten so far. I'll leave just a little bit of time in case someone's typing one right now, and just show you one other area that I think it's helpful to see, and that is within our what's new. So if we go to, if you're on the Times website anywhere and you go to product and then what's new, you can see all of our featured updates. If you want to see what's new, particularly for cases, feel free to just filter for cases. You can see that just this week we released another new option, both with our case navigation, where now you can go through the different parts of the cases based on the headings. So what do we name this? A table of contents. Yes, much better said than what I just said there. But lots of new updates, as you can see here with the timestamp. Same thing for, we have a records option too, which includes dashboard updates there as well. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for tuning in. Feel free to reach out to us or reach out to your team at Times if you have any more questions or any more follow-ups. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks again.